Today we have a very special guest on Ballooncast, our darling teacher Daniela, aka Teacher Lella, the famous one, who's here to talk a little about her life experience living in Portugal. Teacher Lella, welcome, and thanks for accepting the invitation.
Thank you very much. Anytime. And it's always a way to revisit Portugal, speaking about it.
Oh,
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Fantastic. I'm pretty sure you have the sweetest memories.
Yes, I do indeed.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of our reality today, I just hope our dogs don't bark because you have 3 dogs yourself. I have 3 dogs here. So if they bark, sorry, audience, it's all part and parcel of having pets at home.
Yeah, the
So,
symphony.
okay, so can I start and ask
Yes,
you a
sure.
few questions? Yeah?
Sure.
Okay, so let's kick off. What reasons made you choose Portugal to live?
Okay, so to make the story short, okay, it was a summer job opportunity in the Algarve, working on a sailboat, doing mini cruises along the coast. After this very first trip, I was already in love with the place and with the guy to whom I would marry 2 years later. So I can say that it was, so yes, it was the landscape, yes, and it was love that made me stay a little longer than just that summer season.
Okay, so sight for sore eyes, both in terms of, companionship and also landscape.
Yes, more or less that.
Okay, it all hit off. Okay, I see. And how long did you live there?
Altogether, between comings and goings, it was almost 16 years something.
Oh, wow. So that's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime, yes.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little about your routine living there. Like during those 17 years, even if not continuously, I assume you worked, you studied. So tell us a little about your daily routines and the things that you used to do there.
Yeah, well, in 16 years, a lot can happen, right? So I worked and I studied. At this marina, I worked with the mini cruises agency, and I worked in a bar. After that, I worked in shops selling clothes and souvenirs. And then 1 year later, I moved and I started working in a hotel and a restaurant. A few months later, from the food and beverage department, I moved to the entertainment department and I became a sports entertainer. And I stayed doing that for quite a good time. And then they offered me an opportunity to work at the spa in this very same hotel. And I decided then to study, to improve my skills. And after 3 years of training, I became a yoga instructor and a massage therapist. And that was what I did for until the very last day I lived in Portugal.
Okay, so basically you were in the tourism industry.
Yes, hospitality and tourism, yes.
Mm-hmm. So tourists mostly from Europe, all over the world. So what was it like?
Yeah, well, Algarve nowadays, and back at that time, it's like number 2 spot for summer vacation. Lots of retired people from the UK and Germany have their villas there, and it's a quite famous touristic site. Lots of people coming from everywhere, even from North America, Canadians and Americans as well.
Oh, interesting. I see. Well, speaking a little bit now about things out of Portugal, we know that it's very common when living or spending time in Europe to travel, across and around the continent. So what countries did you have the chance to visit during your time there?
It's a good list. It's Spain, France, Italy, Germany, Liechtenstein, the Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, Hungary, and the Czech Republic.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm jealous
Yeah.
already.
Oh, and from Germany, because the tickets were super appealing with very good price, I went to Indonesia. So I had an extension to another continent, but then I came back.
Okay, all right. And did you also have the chance to learn other languages, or you only communicated in Portuguese and in English?
I improved the Spanish that I had, and I made some attempts with my French.
Like oui, merci, and things like that?
Kind of. No, it's funny. When you're living the language, you somehow develop this incredible capacity of communicating. So everything that was somewhere back there in those lost files, they came back. Nowadays they're gone again, but it
Of
helped. It
course.
helped a lot.
Yeah. It's all about practicing and being in touch with other
Yes.
speakers of other languages. Fantastic. And considering this, this long list of countries that you've had the chance to visit, which ones did you like the most and the least, and why?
I loved the Netherlands and Italy, mainly because I spent more time traveling around. I visited more cities and I got to know them better. And I wouldn't dare saying that there is a country that I liked the least.
Okay.
And they are very specific in their own ways, so they are worth the visit and just go.
Okay. All right. And now, going back to Portugal, what were the highlights of living in Portugal? So, since you mentioned that there is nothing bad about the countries, was there a downside? And if so, which one was it?
Well, downside, no downside whatsoever. Okay. At that time, for me, of course, there were two things that bothered me. That was the distance, being away, and the costs to to come back to Brazil during my vacation. But that was it, and it was nothing related to the country itself. And then regarding the highlights, I can only speak about living in the Algarve because that's where I stayed for those 16 years. I lived 1 year in Ilha da Madeira, Madeira Island, but other than that, it was most of the time, it was all those 16 years in the Algarve. So it's a captivating touristic destination.
And teacher Lella, just to put our listeners on the map, geographically speaking, where
Mhm.
is the
The Algarve is
north?
this southern region in Portugal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very corner of Portugal in the south, and that's where we have Sagres, which is one of the the extreme points in the continent. So one of the highlights, I would say, it was the sunset. It was the most
Okay.
most beautiful sunset ever. And
Okay.
then
Beautiful.
so it was I always wanted to live near the beach, and the Algarve's long coastline helped me with that choice. I never considered living anywhere else in Portugal. So white sandy bays, yellow gold cliff walls, and the beaches, and this picturesque seaside villages, very posh spa resorts, surfing beaches. So it was a whole pack, and I just loved it because of it. I cannot
Oh,
leave it out. The food, the wine, the history, the tradition, the people. It's a long list of highlights, I'd say.
okay. And what do you miss the most?
Well, that sunset with my sangria next to it, next to me. And
The best partner for these moments.
yeah, a jar of fresh sangria and the sunset, my daily 10K run on the beach, my morning swims, eating fresh sardines on this very crusty slice of bread, cheese and olives, and working with mind and body wellness. That was a very good thing that I have on the list of my favorites.
Okay. And it, like I imagine that teaching students, and we know that a lot of our students have moved out or and tried other countries, and Portugal included. So if you were to briefly define Portugal, which words or which adjectives would you use to describe the country? What were your what would your recommendations be?
Okay. So the list is long, but I can say that sun, sand, and sea in the Algarve, Lisbon and its vibes, because it's an amazing city, Porto and its authenticity, because it's people there are very authentic. The Douro Valley with its wine and vineyards and etc. Alentejo with the medieval villages and this megalithic sites that they have there. It's an amazing country. I would say that amazing. If it's to make it short, amazing.
Mm-hmm. And for a tourist like me, if like on my next trip, if I go to Portugal, how long would you recommend to be there to, to have at least, some basic notions and to get to know the place, visit the best locations, like 10 days,
10
2
days.
weeks?
10 days minimum 10 days. I can't it's a small country. Okay, from north to south you have like 800 kilometers or something like that, and from east to west it's 300, 400. I'm not sure. I should, but I'm not sure. I should be sure of it. But it's so different that it's I can't tell you go to the Algarve. No, I can't. I have to say that you must go up to the north, and you have to. And driving is so easy. They have those amazing highways. So 10 days. Save 10 days.
Okay. Okay. All right. Teacher Lella, we are running out of time here, unfortunately, because I could be speaking here with you and interviewing you and asking you questions on and on nonstop. And thanks once more. It was a great pleasure interviewing you. You were a delight to talk to, as you usually are.
Thank you very much for calling me and inviting me to share a little bit of this part of my story.
Okay, I'm pretty sure our students, our listeners will be, very glad during this interview and getting to know you a little bit better, and also about this very special time in your life.
Thank you.
Thank you.